BRB UK. Worse teeth, better accents.
Hello, and indeed ahoy hoy. Welcome to episode 578 of BRB UK. I'm Dan, I'm one of your hosts. Hello, how are you? Yes, I am, thank you, yes. Yep, brilliant. I'm just assuming you're enjoying the conversation as much as I am, listeners. But just in case you're not, there's Tim over there. Say hello, Tim over there.
Hello, Tim over there. I like
Tim.
the way on the intro you showed off the worst teeth and then the better accent. That was very well done. Like, in keeping with our...
Wow. Throw me under the bus.
To be fair, I've got worse teeth than you.
They're a lot less wonky than they used to be. I'll tell you that much. You're probably noticing the distinct lack of a coal man. Well, there's not a true lack of a coal man. Coal man's super secret garage job has meant that they've actually had to wipe his flat off the face of the planet for reasons, because he's a super secret agent. I mean, gas station worker.
They're resetting his identity again.
Indeed, but he is able to communicate with us through the medium of soundboards, aren't you, coal man?
Hello.
No, that's just him again.
That's me. That's not going to work for audio listeners, surely.
No. I do think it's suspicious that Coleman has no sounds of his own on the soundboard.
That's because he only takes us two out of context and makes us embarrassed by our previous thing. There are things that he has on that soundboard. I have no idea where they came from originally. I've heard them lots of times now.
Your face is where they came from.
That does also remind me as well.
Cannot resist the dicks.
There we go.
See, that was a recent one. I don't even know where that came from. I just know it's more recent.
I haven't had more than 3 balls,
face.
but you can have 3 balls at once.
3 balls at once. 3 balls,
that one came
go.
from Masternoid. That one I know about. But yeah, also that makes me wonder as well, do long-term listeners, do more recent listeners and viewers of the podcast not know where the hell our intro comes from, because it used to be a lot longer and make a bit more sense.
Yeah, the worst teeth, better accents.
Yeah.
I mean, we made an editorial decision because it used to mention the late Queen.
Oh right, yeah, it did, didn't it?
That was an editorial when I think we called that a couple of years early, just in case.
Got ahead of the game.
Bit awkward before King Prince Charles took the throne.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you, Coleman.
Could you find a more inappropriate noise?
What, for King Prince Charles? There's plenty of inappropriate noises for King Prince Charles. A lot of them, again, made by him. That's one. So, anywho, we probably ought to start rattling things off, because Tim has played some games, but there was also news. Coleman did have some games he wanted to talk about, but since he can only communicate through the medium of a soundboard, unless he can do a review of Tekken 8 in 4 noises, I think we're out of luck.
Let's try and, Ouija board it.
Okay, one noise.
Speak to us, Coleman.
2 noises.
Yeah. Give us... okay. Is it you just going to go with the 4 noise review in general?
Okay, 3 noise. Okay, good. Yep. Right. And the 4th noise.
Oh,
I think he likes it.
I think he does.
I think he likes it. He likes the Tekken 8. So there we go. Do you know what? I think we should do all of our reviews like that from now on.
Can we go with the score, Coleman? Was it a 4 out of 5? 1 noise for yes, 2 noises for no.
What? No, it was not a 4 out of 5. Was it a 5 out of 5 as far as you're concerned? That's 5, 6 out of 5, 7 out of 5, 8 out of 5. It's a 9 out of 5. A 10 out of 5.
I think the system may need some revision.
It is a 10 out of 5. Brilliant.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Tekken 8
that wasn't
out
such
of 5.
a good idea, reviewing games like that. No, it was a 10 out of 5.
People said I was dumb, but I proved them.
Mm-hmm.
It's a shame, though, because Coleman did have the 2 actual recent games this week that were a lot more relevant.
Yeah,
And
both of yours
Andy
are
had
bloody
played
VR.
along.
You've got a separate podcast.
Exactly,
like
and both of
bloody
mine
toe rag.
are just previews because the game I played mostly is not. I can't actually talk about until next week. So
Which one's
you
it?
can
Is
look
that the
forward
one
to
that's
that
going to
one.
have me saying the words bit?
No.
No?
That's
Or
this week. This
I
week
think
I
no,
can
sorry,
talk
it was
about that
different.
game a little bit. I have played a small portion of that. Well, I've played probably about a third of that game, I would say.
Right.
But yeah, like.
And what is that game?
Well, just before we do that, Coleman was also going to talk about Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth, and I'm looking forward to hearing what he thinks about that. So hopefully we'll hear more about that next week as well.
Coleman, sorry,
and
a bit
Tekken 8
of
too,
confusion.
but yeah.
I thought Coleman was going to talk about Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth. Which one are you talking about, Coleman? Appropriate noise for me or appropriate noise for Tim? Because Tim thinks... Yep. It's not infinite, it's infinite.
Infinite? Fine.
Infinite.
Okay. Infinite.
Not
yeah.
infinite.
Infinite.
No, it's not. No, it's not like you're trying to pretend to be a middle-aged wide boy, Tim. Infinite, mate.
Infinite.
In it. No.
No.
Silly boy. Silly boy.
But yeah, as you did mention, though, I can talk a little bit about Bulletstorm VR. I'd love to be able to come here and say everyone else is wrong. It's not as terrible as they say. But yeah,
So is it because the game itself is bad, or is it because it's aged really terribly?
I think it's a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B. I don't think it's aged as terribly well. I don't know, because I didn't play the remastered version when that came out recently as well. And I'm guessing this is based off that.
Right.
But it's not, it doesn't feel great. Like, graphically, the guns look okay and everything else looks a little bit ropey. Like, the AI was never the best, but then it wasn't quite the point of the game. This wasn't like your Gears of War cover shooter, even though it kind of like seems like a similar kind of style and attitude to that. It's really not about remaining in cover, and it's really not about the difficulty of necessarily shooting the enemies. It's about the difficulty of achieving a high score by creatively killing enemies and coming up with different ways of doing that throughout the level.
And also going, jokes.
Whoa! Yeah.
Yes, indeed.
And like that is, I don't think that was particularly like necessarily good at the time. It was always like intentionally overly done, and I think there was a joke in that, a bit like the Duke Nukem sort of, intentionally dumb. And when that hits, it hits well. And I think this hasn't changed. And there's a warning at the beginning of the game that says, we haven't really changed the content of this game from what it was when it was released, sort of thing.
Does it genuinely have a trigger warning at the beginning?
Not quite a trigger warning. It's this game was inappropriate when it launched. We haven't fixed it kind of warning, basically.
Okay.
And
because when was the original release? That was, I want to say, like 2000
I can't remember exactly what year, but it was Xbox 360 era, I believe. So it was a couple of generations ago. And like I said, I didn't play the more recent remake. And there are things in this which have aged badly, but there's also just things that don't seem to have been particularly well ported, and things that I hope that they address and patch going forward. And I really hope they do, because it's not without its charms, and there are some redeeming features within this game that I think, if a few of the problems were patched out the way, there could be something worth playing here, basically.
Okay.
The weapons are good, and the weapons are fun, and the creative killing is quite cool. The one thing is that I don't remember, it's got the leash in the game.
It's out of context. The defense rests, my lord.
Yeah. But that it's got the leash that you can kind of pull people towards you, and when you pull them towards you or pull them upwards, they kind of go into stasis, and then that allows you to then like kick them back into like spiky plants, or kick them off a ledge, or shoot them as they're flying. And there's various different combos you can do with that leash. The only thing is there's two different methods of controlling the leash that they've put in VR. One is it kind of tracks your head movements, and then you leash wherever you're looking at. And the other one kind of goes wherever you aim it with your arm. And both of them are really imperfect, to the point where they don't work as reliably as they did in the original game.
Okay.
That is a big problem, because it just makes all of the combat a bit more frustrating than it should be. And that's one of the things that I hope they can fix. Now, I don't know if they developed and they did the best they could with it, and this is the limit of what they can do, or whether that's something they can adjust going forward. That is something that I think, I'm hoping that's one of the things that they could fix and actually adjust and make the game more enjoyable. As I said, I'm only about a third into the game. I do know the game well. I know there's some other good, fun weapons coming up later in the game as well. So I'm going to plow through it and get through it before I sort of, come to a full conclusion. But from what I've played so far, it's difficult to recommend at the price, which I think Coleman's got down to $29.99 to $33.50. I thought it was $34.50 or $34.99 on the store. But at that sort of price, it's really difficult to recommend because it's just got too many rough edges. And it's one of those things where I hope the developers haven't backed themselves into a corner where not enough people have bought it, so they can't afford to fix the problems. But they need to fix the problems before more people will buy it, type of problem, And I'm worried they've painted themselves into that corner. I'll be really grateful if they do manage to fix some of the problems with it, because it's a game I really loved previously, and I was really hopeful that this would be a good VR conversion. At the moment, I can't say that it is from what I've seen. But as I said, I'm going to finish off
probably
my
an
playthrough.
element of rose-tinted specs on it as well, Tim, I would probably say.
Rose-tinted?
Well,
I was going to say something a bit ruder, but I'll save Coleman the editing time. But yeah, it's at the moment.
Is there a non-rude way you can say it or not?
Poo-tinted spectacles, I was going to say.
All right, okay.
Yeah.
Lovely.
Yeah, it's a nice image.
Really?
Well, I was going to skip it for the editing thing, and it wasn't worth the editing. And it probably, without the shock factor, it's even worse.
How this goes with me. If you say, I will just to derail you.
Keep on
press
picking
you for
at
details.
it until it bleeds.
Picking the sweet cut. So once you've picked the sweet corn out of your goggles,
oh no,
you might enjoy it.
I hope so.
Lovely. So that is out, I believe, for $29.99 to somewhere around 33 or 34 or 35 pounds, somewhere in that amount. And that is out on MetaQuest, PS VR2, and Steam VR as of now, I believe.
And I should have mentioned two factors going in. One, I was playing the PS VR2 version, although I have heard there's equal problems on the MetaQuest version. Don't know if the Steam version's better, but I imagine it probably isn't because the problem's inherent to the way it's been built. But
and is it a native MetaQuest game as opposed to one running on a PC that you?
Yes, I believe so. I think there's a different port for each version. But then, and perhaps that was part of the problem. Maybe they should have brought it out on one platform first, perfected it, and then brought it to the other two. But but yeah, also I received a review code for this, hence the fact I was playing it basically. So yeah, as I said, I will finish off my playthrough and I will come back to it and give some more thoughts when me and Kev reconvene for a VRB.
I can tell you already that he is thrilled at the prospect.
Absolutely thrilled. He's got a review code too, so it's going to be interesting.
Nice. And you got one other one you were going to talk about. Now, this is a game that's been out on Steam VR for quite some time. I think it's been out since October 2022.
Yes.
It's a game called Ultrawings 2, and it looks like a bit of very nice, light-hearted fun that may lead to Coleman projectile vomiting if you ever play it.
Yeah, maybe not for Coleman, this one. A bit too all over the place. But the previous game, Ultrawings, was on PSVR 1, so I played it on that. I've only played literally the first few levels just to give it a quick go, and then I got review codes for Bulletstorm VR and another VR game, so I've had my hands completely full with that. I haven't gone back to it. It did, and we were mentioning, I think it shadow dropped last week while we were podcasting, or just after we podcasted, and I was complaining about it not listing the fact it has HOTAS support. It does have HOTAS support. It just doesn't say that on any of the actual information on the thing. The only reason I saw it is because it had a screenshot of the HOTAS setup that was in part of the screenshots, but it didn't actually list it in the information.
I mean, is there HOTAS stuff that works well with PlayStation, or
what do you mean?
PC only?
No. I've been playing it on PC, PSVR2, and that is my PlayStation HOTAS just behind me. If you can see it,
nice.
I'm not sure if it's in view.
Somewhere
there.
So is it essentially like Pilot Wings in VR? Is what I want to.
It is very much
what all the media I've seen makes me want to say.
It does feel a little bit. It's one of those games where you can see the budget a little bit. It does feel a bit indie game. I believe it's a quite small developer, but for being a quite small developer, it's really well done. Just the fact it's got HOTAS support is appreciated. The HOTAS support is slightly less than perfect. I actually want to go back and try it without HOTAS and try it with the sense controller things, because especially when you're starting up, there's a lot of like switches and levers to pull and ignition things to turn on and stuff. And that you can just look at and press a button on the HOTAS, but I think that's going to feel a bit more tactile, and it's got the haptic support and stuff as well. So I think that's going to feel a bit better when you're actually doing that manually with the sense controllers.
Not pressing a button is more tactile than pressing a button.
When you're actually like pressing a button,
right,
and switching things, and you got like the levers and things to pull and stuff as well, and that's a bit more confusing. Also, like when I say this shadow dropped, the developer did not know this game was coming out. Caught them by surprise.
That's a tad concerning. I'm not going to lie.
There are so many things concerning with the PlayStation Store, especially the VR portion of it. I don't know who's in charge of it, but they are doing a bad job. Also, doing a very bad job of scheduling. We'll come on to that later in the program as well.
God, right.
But the developer didn't know. It doesn't. I don't know if it's even had its day one patch yet. It didn't have its day one patch to go when it launched because the developer didn't know that it was happening. And so I kind of think it released accidentally with absolutely no fanfare whatsoever. It wasn't actually listed in the store as well. You could find it by searching for it, but it wasn't actually listed in when it came out as well. So it was actually difficult to find. So yeah, there was all sorts of problems with this as well. But considering it didn't have its day one patch, it works really well considering. And I'm keen to go back and play a lot more of it because it's a good flight game finally on PlayStation VR2, which is the first case of that being the case. And yeah, it's a bit twee, but it's kind of fun. And yeah, I liked the last game, and I think I'm gonna like this one more because it's a bit more to it. There's a bit of combat in this as well, which I've already had a little play in because that's one of the early training levels. And yeah, it seems like it's going to be good fun.
I would say it doesn't look like keeping websites up to date is on BitPlanet's priority list because they're still saying it's coming soon for Steam, despite the fact it released in 2022.
Well, that's fine. As I said, they are a small developer. It's also much easier to forgive when the game is reasonably well priced as well. It's like £15 on PSVR2, and I believe it ranges from about $15 to $16.75 depending on what platform you're on. As I said, I've been playing on PSVR2, but it's also available on MetaQuest and Steam VR. For that sort of price, it's an easy recommendation, and I do think it's quite good fun. Maybe not one that you want to sit down and play for hours, but a good one to dip in and out of and have a quick fly around. And yeah, it's quite nice.
How long do you think Coleman would last before chundering?
2 minutes, Turkish.
2 minutes, Coleman. 2 minutes. Welcome to the Chunderdome. Yes. So I have not really played much else this week. I've sunk some more time into Prince of Persia. Which is continuing to be perfectly acceptable fun.
You haven't grown into the game anymore then, no?
It's perfectly acceptable fun. What can I say? I still find some of the characters very annoying. That is my problem. Perhaps I'm just being a grumpy old man. That's my problem.
I realised I missed the trick last week. What's the main character's name, Dan?
Sargon.
I hear washing machines last longer with Sargon. Hey?
Get out.
Hey?
Get out. Get out. You're better than that, Tim.
Yeah.
You're better than that.
I mean, if it was
I'm
a bit more natural last week, it would have,
Really?
Would have been. A little
Are
bit.
you sure? I'm not that confident.
I'm not sure. It was a bad joke. It was a bad dad
You're
joke.
right. It was a terrible
I'm not even
joke.
dad. I'm a cat dad, maybe, but
Yeah.
You get nothing. You lose. Good day, sir.
Look what you've done to Coleman. You've set him
Coleman
off.
approves.
No, he doesn't. You don't approve, do you, Coleman? No. See? He no likey, Tim. Bad joke.
Why don't you lay off the Asians?
Right.
Savvy
That's pretty
says.
much all we done played. I do. The one exciting thing, which isn't new news, it's old news. So old, not news. That X-Men like XCOM game. What's it called? Midnight Suns.
Oh yes, I like that.
That finally appeared in. I'm really glad about this because I almost bought it during Steam's winter sale. It finally appeared in my humble bundle choice.
Ooh, got it.
And I've just downloaded it
Freeish.
to my massive dick, and apparently it's rather good on the massive dick.
I'll be good on that.
So
yeah.
it's not news, but I'm quite looking forward to sinking some time into that.
I was very tempted by the DLC pack when that went on sale over Christmas. But yeah, I elected to buy.
I think
other
it's the
games and
deluxe
other things
pack that
instead.
was given, so I think I've got all the goodies.
Ooh, that gives you Deadpool as well and a few other things. But
Yeah,
there's a lot of
and,
game in that game already, Dan. So yeah,
There's a
you
lot
don't
of
need to
game in
worry
the
either
game.
way.
There's
a
a lot
lot
of
of game in that game. Yes,
good game.
good game.
That's
Good
when you
game.
put game inside a game. That's right. That's
Yeah.
how you spell it. Gigami that's game inside a game. I'm really looking forward to that. It's going to be fun times. And Kev,
Yeah, I like that.
Kev made me click buy on something called Last Epoch, which looks like it's going to be a dreadful time sink for me. It's in early access on Steam. It's an ARPG, a bit like Diablo, but good, apparently, according to the reviews.
And I
So,
did actually play something else, but I'll save that for upcoming news report because it is entirely relevant to that.
Sounds good, because do you know what Sony only went and did last night? As of the time of recording, they only crimped out a state of play, mate. Crimped it out. Like the high fiber diet loving fiends they are. They crimped one out in one smooth motion. 44 minutes of state of play.
Oh,
There was some highs. There was some meh.
yeah.
I don't think we're going to have time necessarily to go into absolutely everything, but I will just go from the top, and we'll do little detours as and when. Helldivers 2. Yep, more Helldivers. It's like
Looking
Starship
good.
Troopers, but it isn't.
Are you planning to pick this up?
No.
Oh,
I was
hoping-
underwhelmed by the first one, I have to say. I was really excited by the first one. I was like, this is a generic-ass shooty game.
I see. This looked Destiny enough like that. I thought you might be interested. Maybe you over Destinied, but
I might be over Destiny.
yeah. But considering it's £35 rather than the full price game, I was hoping that you might be interested, and then we might.
It's
be
got
able to
PlayStation Plus written all over it, dude.
yeah, that's true. Might be able to get Coleman signed up, get Kev to make a full team, and then we could, play some, maybe stream some. But
I think it's going to come to PlayStation Plus. Is what I think is going to happen, and then
that's not a bad shout. I
merrily
might
pick it up.
hold out for that.
Yeah, so it's, that's coming out. Quite a lot of these games are coming out fairly swiftly, actually. So this one's out on the 8th of February, according to the powers that be at the PlayStations. Next up after Helldivers 2 is a bit more of a single-player affair. It's kind of like if Bayonetta and Metal Gear Solid Vengeance had a love child. That is Stellar
yes.
Blade, and wow, this is clearly made by people who haven't. Wow, it just makes me. How do I put this without sounding really judgmental? It just depresses me when a lot of the character designers had skimpy clothes and boobs. Essentially,
It's like, you haven't met a woman before. Okay.
I mean, that's what I was going to say. I'm glad you said that rather than me.
I was going to refer to it as it looked a bit like a techno budget Bayonetta, basically. That's kind of...
I mean, so I wonder if this is related. There was kind of a something that was very similar out on Steam, made by a single Korean developer. a little while ago. I don't know if this is related to that, but essentially it is Stellar Blade is a hacky slashy, very Bayonetta-y. That you're in a post-apocalyptic Earth. Things have gone sideways. You've got improbable boob physics and a sword, and using those tools, you will take back the planet and save the world.
I kind of think I should be more interested in this, considering it's like a lot of games that I do kind of like Bayonetta, but it doesn't seem like it's like Bayonetta's got like a self-aware kind of humor to it, and that seems sadly lacking from this, and as such seems a lot less attractive. It
seemed very self-serious, I have to say. It was, and I don't know. I kind of think the presentation in State of Play didn't help. Or essentially, hey, you can do objectives and take on missions, and you can complete the objectives, or
you
not.
Can help
and
out
you can climb up
and
stuff, and you can jump off stuff. And guess what? Your sword, you can stab things with it. It was not the best bit of presentation, I have to say.
Yeah, it's a bit wooden. Just generally, just there's something lacking from it. I also think like this would have been a really graphically impressive game on PS4. Is that harsh? Am I being overly?
I think it had some bits where it looked really good, other bits where not so much. No, I mean, I think it is a I mean, I think there's very little to set this apart from a lot of other stuff. It seems to have borrowed or wanting to borrow from a lot of kind of pretty much existing tropes in the films of Bayonetta. There's probably a little smidge of Horizon in terms of the setting, post-apocalyptic Earth and all that. And obviously Metal Gear Solid Revenge in Animals.
It also very much seems like a Platinum game that's not been made by Platinum Games.
Yes, indeed. I think that is a very fair comment. It's like it's kind of what's not quite as good as Platinum. Pewter? No, it's not quite as good as Platinum. I don't know. There's a joke in there somewhere. I just can't be bothered to finish it off.
Just construct it for yourself. This isn't worth it. We'll move on.
No. So Stellar Blade is coming out on the 26th of April 2024 to the PlayStation 5. Next up, we have Sonic Times Shadow Generations, or Sonic X Shadow Generations, catering for an audience who probably weren't even an itch in someone's nether regions when Sonic and Shadow first came out. This very much looks like a continuation of a lot of the modern kind of Sonic games to me, in terms of, the bit of side-scrolly, bit of kind of 3D behind Sonic type stuff. You play as Sonic, you play as Shadow.
Coleman's
great.
Coleman's our resident Sonic expert, or more attuned with Sonic. Is this like a remake of Sonic Generations with Shadow in it? Is that
that's
what's
what you're
going
saying?
on?
It's a port of Generations with Shadow stuff added.
Right, okay. Yeah, okay. I thought that was the case, so yeah. Okie dokie. That makes sense.
Yarp.
I don't care.
So if Sonic's your thing, that's the thing.
Yeah.
Zenless Zone Zero is next up. I kind of slightly blanking on this one. I'm not going to
mate,
lie.
It was very forgettable. I do kind of like the art style. It's a kind of cell-shaded anime kind of.
It reminded me of Hi-Fi Rush a bit, the art style.
Yeah. But I didn't. That was about all I liked about it. It didn't really seem to show much gameplay. I'm guessing it was all cutscenes that we saw.
Yeah.
And so it didn't really tell us much about it. And what it did tell us, I'm not sure I care.
I think you shoot the bad robots, mate, is what happens.
Okay. And there's some
you
form
shoot
of
the bad
cat
mans.
person on your team by the looks of things.
Yeah, shoot the bad mans. Is what you got to do. That's Zenless Zone Zero.
I'll reserve judgment,
I'm sure
but the fact that it's coming to iOS and Android does not fill me with confidence.
No, indeed. And yes, quite. And next up, coming out and launching on PlayStation Plus, I believe, is Splatoon. No. No? Wrong game? Wrong game.
Slightly the wrong game.
This FoamStars, it looks a lot like Splatoon. I think launching on PlayStation
What if
Plus is a
Splatoon
really
went
good
to a
shout.
nightclub, Dan?
Yeah,
That's basically
it's all about
FoamStars.
kind of. Yeah, I think it's just going to be kind of mixing stuff up with just a highly dynamic rule set. I think with the with the kind of PvP it's going on, new characters that are coming in, it's basically squirty foam everywhere and win the universe by squirt and foam and have a horrible flashback to the 90s. And next thing you know, you're drinking hooch.
I know we've been a bit down on this, but I think we've already alluded to the fact that early sort of previews did come away pretty positive from this. So I'll be interested to see how it works out.
I think that's a fair comment.
The fact that we're getting it on PlayStation Plus means I will probably give it a go.
Yeah, I'll give it a go, but for the price of money I've already paid Sony.
Yeah.
That's what I'll do. And that's coming up on PlayStation 5 and PlayStation 4. And it's going to be in your PlayStation Plus monthly games on week beginning 8th of February, I want to say. So that's coming soon. Next up, we have the very, very, very awesome game that's been on PC, released on PC last year, is an awesome, awesome fit for I've enjoyed it on my massive dick, but I think will be a great addition to anyone's PlayStation library, and that is Dave the Diver.
The chap
really love this
that
game.
we see in the trailer for the game that they showed at the showcase, and Coleman is hopefully putting up with the video. Is that Dave, the titular Dave that's playing with the controller?
Dave is a portly gentleman.
Yes. Okay.
Yes, that Dave is a bearded portly gentleman.
Yes, because he's playing with a PS5 controller at the beginning of the trailer.
I'm not sure I think that is not Dave. That's the guy who makes your weapons. He's a portly chap. But he's a different portly chap than Dave, who's a portly bearded chap.
Fair enough.
It's a great game, Dave the Diver. There's a little bit of kind of exploration, bit of leveling stuff up, a little bit of a kind of an idle sushi making awesome game. It's all kinds of fun.
Now
and there's free Godzilla
added
DLC.
Godzilla, yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
Everything's better with Godzilla.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's coming in April 2024 is when I believe it's coming to PlayStations. This is. And free Godzilla DLC, which I think is for all platforms. It's coming in May 2024. Next, we have, if you like vampires, if you like survival.
I wouldn't say I like them. They kind of suck.
No.
That was a bit late.
That's twice. Tim,
yeah.
This episode. That's twice.
Bad dad joke. Ahoy.
That's twice. You've only got one more, and we are ejecting you from the internet. Okay. All right. Are we clear? Are we
Do
clear?
I lose my podcast card if I?
Yeah. That's a card you should have lost a long time ago.
Yeah.
To be fair,
shouldn't have
we've
it in
put
the
up
first place.
with over 10 years of your nonsense. This might be the straw that breaks the camel's back. Okay, you're on thin ice, mate. All right.
Okay.
Thin ice.
Mm-hmm.
Razor thin ice. No, Tim. Anyway, this is V Rising. This is, it self-described itself as an immersive vampire action RPG survival game with castle building. So there's a little bit of, it's kind of, there's a little bit of everything in here, really. It's a little bit of stabby vampire people, a little bit of choppy downy tree people. Presumably they're vampire trees and they must die. And you're building a castle for reasons, I'm guessing. Yes, it's lots of your favorite games all smushed into one, so you can enjoy it in one, hopefully not entirely middling package.
Shooting thingy with some melee combat, maybe.
Yes,
looks like it could be all right.
It could be all right. I mean, it might be trying to be too many things rather than one kind of nice, elegantly put together package, as it were. Talking of, I'm not sure where I'm going with this. Talking of scary things. There we go. Scary. I rescued it. Talking of scary things. Silent Hill. There was a lot of fuss about Silent Hill, and first out the gate, there's not one but two bits of Silent Hill for your delectation, and one is out now in form of a psychological horror short experience. Silent Hill: The Short Message. If
Yes.
you're wondering what a short message is, this is what happened before iMessages and stuff. It's texts, presumably.
Right.
It's your usual Silent Hill, very creepy, very unsettling kind of thing. It kind of has... Whenever I see anything to do with Silent Hill, it always reminds me of The Ring, that kind of Japanese movie from, 10, 15 years ago, where it was just really... it wasn't necessarily scary, but it was just really unsettling. And this seems to be like that. And you, Tim, I believe you said you've played a very short bit of the short message.
Well, I mean, it's only a 2-hour game. I've heard from somewhere else, but I've played the first half an hour or so of it. Just to give some context, I don't think I ever really played much of the original Silent Hills. I seem to remember somewhere playing a bit of Silent Hill 2 for some reason, and but never really got too deep into the series. But yeah, from what I understand, this is a totally different character. You're playing as a young girl. Forget her name. Italia. They don't really mention her name. What's her name? But anyway, but she's basically...
Really glad you played the game, Tim.
Yeah. She's basically... and I should preface this with kind of, they do give a trigger warning at the start of this game because it does deal with some fairly heavy themes. It seems to do that reasonably
and
well.
Fair, the
and
trailer
reasonably,
does as well.
Yeah,
Even
and
the trailer
reasonably
was...
well and reasonably respectfully. But there are some elements of like self-harm, online bullying, and kind of suicide kind of dealt with it as well. So if that's uncomfortable for you, just be warned about that going in the game, sort of thing.
Is it like living with her own demons? Is essentially, is that what the premise of it is, or?
Basically, you are in a kind of abandoned apartment block. It's kind of it was built, but then doesn't seem to have ever been lived in, and it was kind of occupied by a lot of like teenagers that were doing graffiti and kind of
the street toughs. All those pesky street toughs.
But then it became known in the neighborhood as a place where particularly young girls went and committed suicide. And there was a lot of that happening there, basically. And you are just in that environment, kind of all of a sudden, you're like on the street to start with, and then suddenly in the middle of this environment, in this kind of tower block. And I said, it's all heavily graffitied, and you are trying to find your friend, who goes by like kind of online tag of Cherry Blossom, and she's a graffiti artist, and she's like really popular on social media, and you're not. So there's a bit of kind of envy coming into that in kind of part of the story as well. And won't spoil the kind of story, the major story beats of what's going on, but you're trying to find her. There's something weird going on with that. You're communicating with one of your other friends. You're doing all that communication via text. And you've got your phone
short messages, if you will, Tim.
Short messages. And you've got your phone in front of you that you're using as a torch to kind of guide your way through the environment. And then it kind of cuts and you go over to the messaging.
Zombies
and then you kind of come back to the environment and you're using it as a torch again. And yeah, like, right. It's unsettling from a perspective of some of the subject matter it's dealing with, and it's going between like game footage and kind of remembered footage of your friend in kind of a video format, like as in actual video footage, not game footage kind of thing. Not cutscenes, but actual video footage. And I believe that's all a Japanese actress that's been dubbed, but it's done reasonably well. And again, dealing with some heavy things and some stuff going on with yourself. But yeah, like it, and well, Coleman knows a bit better possibly as well because he's seen me in a few other things before, but I don't scare easily. Yeah. And this literally, like at the first point where, well, I think the second time I encountered that monster that you see in the trailer, which is a kind of cherry blossom monster, like, I literally, it sent a massive shiver down my spine. It really freaked me out.
Tim,
yeah?
real talk, Tim.
Yeah.
Did a little bit of poo come out.
I was okay.
No,
I was all right.
A little bit weak.
Mainly because I had my cat next to me and she was keeping me company. Otherwise, maybe. But
did your cat just look at you and go, stupid human?
Stupid human. What is wrong with you? It's like, as I said, trigger warning for some of the stuff that it deals with, but it does deal with it in a respectful manner. but also be warned, it is an unnerving game just in the horror side of things. And there's an element of like repetition and finding your way out, and there's no combat, but you are just exploring a way through a creepy environment, and then all of a sudden you have to run away from a monster and find your way, like kind of pathfind your way past the monster sort of thing. But yeah, like I want to go back and see where the rest of the story goes because it's intrigued me enough to get into it. But yeah, be warned, it's freaky.
Well, even though you didn't play Silent Hill 2 before, Tim, good news. Hot on the heels of Silent Hill: The Short Message, which is out now on PS5.
Yep.
There's also the remaster, because it's another year of remasters of Silent Hill 2 coming to PlayStation and PC this year at some point that I can't quite remember. I think it just says 2024.
I think it just said 2024, I think. Yeah.
It's in development. You can wishlist it. Like, rate, comment, subscribe. Hit the bell for notifications, all that goodness.
Yeah.
Yeah, I must admit, I didn't play Silent Hill 2 originally. So, yeah, I'm quite interested to give this a little bit of a look, I have to say. So that is coming soon. Next up is a game that is by Ghost Story, who are some ex-Bioshock devs. And my goodness, you can tell the influence of Bioshock on this game.
Yes.
It's called Judas. It's coming to PS5, your Xbox Series and PCs.
You said about it being, definitely Bioshock influence. It does look like it could be, like Bioshock in space kind of thing. It could almost be called Bioshock 3, but it did look like doing enough of its own thing to be, its own game as well. And I don't know about you, like, this trailer really intrigued me. I am really, really interested in this game now. The last sort of teaser trailer didn't give away as much as this, and this still is keeping, its cards close to its chest a little bit in terms of how the game is structured and what's going on. But we did get to see a bit of actual combat, a bit of gameplay, and it hinted at the story a little bit more. And yeah, knowing their track record and how interesting Bioshock was at the time, I am definitely interested in this game and really looking forward to it as well. So yeah.
I think the setting is that you are in a reality. It's a bit like The Matrix in some ways. Right. It's kind of you're in a reality that isn't actually real. It's kind of constructed around what you want to see, and you're being broken out of it unwillingly.
Also, horse people,
or she is breaking people
horse
out
people,
of it unwillingly.
Robots.
Yeah. So yeah, it looks like a very very Bioshocky game, unsurprisingly. But I consider my interest peaked. No particular date on that, as far as I can tell. But I'm sure that's probably a 2025 release. I wouldn't be surprised.
As long as it's more Bioshock and a bit less Bioshock Infinite.
Have you gone West Country? Bioshock Infinite!
Infinite!
I quite like Bioshock Infinite. I quite like that. I quite like the art style. I particularly like the way they did the music in it as well. I thought that was quite nice. A very nice barbershop quartet version of what's that song by the Beach Boys? What's that called? I will not always love you. That one?
Yeah.
That's one for you, Coleman. That's one for the soundboard.
Infinite was a good game. I just thought it wasn't as great as Bioshock, but yeah.
Fair enough. I quite liked it.
God only knows, as Coleman says.
God only knows, indeed. But I thought I'd just vamp it up with some West Country Beach Boys sing-alonger action for you, Coleman. Next up, we have, Christ, it's a VR one.
Yay!
Metro Awakening, another entry in the Metro series based on the books of that series, coming to PS VR2, MetaQuest, and PC Steam VR out at some point this year. It's radioactive and stuff.
It's a bit of a shame that this was leaked a few days before State of Play, because this would have been a real nice surprise. But yeah, Metro is a really good fit, I think, for VR. Like it seems to work really well. But yeah, it's by the developers of recently released Arizona Sunshine 2, probably based on that engine, I would say as well. But it does seem that it's retaining some of the like homemade kind of elements to the weapons and homemade upgrades to your weapons and stuff that it kind of hints to in some of the weapon design. yeah, like it's a prequel to the original game, written by the original writer of the original game, and yeah, like it's apparently been in development for 2.5 years as well. So yeah, the fact this isn't coming out till later this year, they did say 2024 at some point. I am really looking forward to it. It looked like a really high quality VR game. Yeah, I don't think it's PlayStation. No, it's not PlayStation exclusive because it's coming to MetaQuest and Steam VR as well. But either way, yeah, I'm really keen on this game, and it's definitely, I've already wishlisted it, and yeah, definitely looking forward to it.
So next up, we have looking not quite so shiny in the world of VR, but something that looks like it could be quite comedy in terms of hacky slashy stabby thing with your mates. This is coming to PSVR. It's a self-described next-generation ARPG, and it's called Legendary Tales. You can travel into a dungeon, defeat monsters, collect loots, and explore the mysteries of things. And there's what looks like quite a good physics-based fighting system where it isn't just kind of you smack something around the head and it's potted animation. It actually really does react to, your actions in a believable way. So that's good.
It's been out on, I can't remember exactly what VR platform. I think it was PC VR rather than MetaQuest. It might be the other way around. But it's been out on that for a while already. Now coming to PSVR2. And yeah, looks good fun. Apparently, like the one thing that may make me hold off until like a sale or just not buying it quite yet is the fact that it's apparently quite difficult in one player. Like you may not get past the second level in one player type of thing. Whereas in multiplayer up to 4 players, it's a bit easier, but it doesn't seem to balance. But that was someone else's impressions from an early version of the game, so that may have changed and that may be updated with the PSVR2 version. I'm going to keep my ear to the ground and see what reviews say for this and possibly pick it up because it looked good, looked fun, and yeah. So
it's been in early access on PC on Steam since 2021.
Right,
It's got mixed reviews, I think, and a lot of people did kind of comment on pretty brutal difficulty spikes and how really it's not tuned for low player counts. It's assuming you're rocking as a team of 4. So.
Yes, and also apparently not necessarily very recent, but in the last year or so, a lot of people have been more critical of the game than they were initially. So that's kind of skewed reviews a little bit because the developers were like, oh yeah, we're going to do a load of things and you haven't seen anything yet and blah, blah, blah. And there's more to come. And then they just kind of went silent. So I'm kind of hoping that they released the version of PSVR 2 and then, release some updates for all the versions that kind of please the PC gamers as well, basically. But yeah, as I said, I'm going to keep an eye on reviews and see what it says, but I'm looking forward to it as well. So yeah.
And next up, we in the show was Dogma 2 coming out March 22nd of March 2024 for PlayStation 5, obviously, is what we're leading on. It's also coming out on your Xbox Series and PCs. The follow-up to Dragon's Dogma, but looking decidedly more shiny. It seems they seem to be throwing a bit more money at this game this time around.
It does look good, doesn't it?
It does look good.
I don't want to like this game, but it's...
Why don't you want to like it, Tim, you miserable old curmudgeon?
I'll come on to that in a second.
All right.
But it's really tempting me in because it does look very good. I'm really liking the look of it. Especially the bit in the trailer where they showed where you jumped on the back of the dragon and you were actually kind of stabbing it in the head and then jumped off and did a big attack on it as well. That looked really impressive. And it does look like the kind of game that is going to be fun in single player, but is probably going to be even better in multiplayer as well. But
because the original was kind of, I think, although it was notionally an open world RPG, there's a lot of emphasis on dungeon crawling, I believe. So it'd be interesting to see if that element comes into Dragon's Dogma 2 as well. I mean, a lot of kind of overground. You sound like you're some kind of full action womble there. Yeah. Where you are overground, but then you go underground wombling free with a sword.
Adventuring
and bits
free.
Of dragon. So that's coming soon. Tim's grumpy about something with it, though. Why are you grumpy about it, Tim?
The only reason I'm grumpy about it is because whoever is in charge of scheduling, and obviously, there's different companies.
Did they not
in
get
here
your memo?
But whoever's in charge of scheduling games, I'm really looking forward to the next game we're going to talk about, Rise of the Ronin. And it's coming out the same day as Dragon's Dogma 2. And that just means that there's no way I'm picking up Dragon's Dogma at launch. And otherwise, I'd be really interested in it because I really like the look of it. It looks fun. And then if I miss out on playing multiplayer with this because I'm playing something out, like it just doesn't gel well. Also, on that front, Legendary Tales is coming out the same day as another VR game that I'm kind of looking forward to as well. And
dear.
That's just whoever's in charge.
These first world problems, Tim. Will they ever stop? Will they ever stop, Tim?
No, probably not.
No.
But yeah, just the same day, really?
Well, I mean, next up, as Tim kind of alluded to, this just amused me on the agenda. It was originally Rise of the Ronin. So it's amazing how you can speak right to my heart.
Birth of the Boy Zone.
It is the fighting game starring Ronan Keating that we've always wanted.
Why don't you lay off the Asians?
But yeah, this was in my kind of ones to watch when we started at the beginning of the year. This is one of the ones I'm really looking forward to, possibly because it's scratching my Ghost of Tsushima itch. But it's made by Ninja Theory, who know how to make a good hack and slash game.
They do.
It looks like it's kind of part Ghost of Tsushima, part Assassin's Creed.
Yeah, I was getting an Assassin's Creed vibe from it. I mean, this is kind of, for those of you who haven't heard too much about Rise of Ronin, it's set in a really interesting period of Japanese history where they've just opened they've come into contact with the West for the really the first meaningful time in the country's
after
history.
closing down their borders for like 100 or more years, sort of thing. Yeah, and so it's
all about
really
the westernization of kind of Japan, and a lot of it seems like the fighting's an interesting mix of kind of your classic samurai sword play, but also taking advantage of some of the newer technology that's coming in, guns and kind of blunderbusses and that kind of stuff. So I think it looks like a really interesting game. I mean, it's presumably like with a lot of Ninja Theory games, there's a kind of a bit of a strategy element about making sure you're not just running in sword swinging, that you're actually kind of planning the fights that you engage in as well.
And it looks like the kind of Ninja Gaiden formula of you're going to have to be paying attention to what you are doing, to what your enemy's doing, countering at the right time, and that sort of thing. And I really like the look of the formula that they've put together here. The traversal looks quite fun as well. That one of the things we hadn't really seen too much of is we've seen the grappling hook type thing, but then there's a kind of what would you say, like kite type thing that you kind of bring out over your body that kind of helps you fly over things and stuff as well. And as we're seeing in the trailer, big red barrels that you can blow up with a homemade flamethrower as well. Yep. So
what's not to like, Tim?
Exactly.
Is the question I have for you. What's not to like? Next up, they had another remake, Until Dawn, coming to PS5 and PC at some point in 2024. So this is, I think, from a pretty much the ground up redo of Until Dawn. Again, a game I didn't actually engage with much the first time around.
See, I loved this game when it first came out. There also one thing that intrigued me. They're talking about it having a third person option before, because previously it was in first person. So actually a game that I think that was originally built for Move controllers, and then they abandoned that and kind of moved on and just made it all control with a DualShock. But the only thing that gives me a bit of concern is I thought there were some elements of this when they were showing the environment, possibly why they showed that first and foremost without any of the characters in. The environments looked really good and really highly detailed. And when they showed the character models, which were at the time like best in class, they looked amazing at the time. And they don't seem, I don't know if it was just how they presented them or what's going on, but they didn't look as impressive in this remake as they did in the original at the time. Like I'm guessing that they've been improved from what there is, and they're just looking with rose-tinted spectacles from what they were in the past.
Oh, they're rose-tinted this time, are they, Tim?
They are rose-tinted in it this time, yes, for this game, or just generally blood splattered. But
lovely.
But yeah, like I really enjoyed this game. I'm not sure. I kind of feel the massive need to go back and play it again, or almost as if they're like, the way I played the game the first time is the canon of the story, and going back and playing it again would upset how my story played out, almost kind of thing.
Okay.
But yeah.
It's a bit,
yeah.
so is it a bit like kind of in some ways games of the ilk? I mean, I always felt that, I mean, Heavy Rain, right? You know, everyone has very strong opinions of that game, but like kind of a bit like that. My one playthrough was the playthrough. I don't want to.
Well, yeah, and David Cage actually said about Heavy Rain that he didn't want people to replay that multiple times when I interviewed him. I thought that was really interesting. There's not many game developers that actually say that about their games. But yeah, like that's kind of holds true with Until Dawn. And the two things they do have in common as well is that you have a group of people you're playing as, and they can die at various points in the game. And if they die, you still continue the story, but it continues in a different way without them. And that's something that, you know, they've continued, that Supermassive Games, who made Until Dawn, have continued that formula in the other games that have followed, The Quarry and some of the others. I always forget the name of the series that they all. The Devil in Me was the latest one, but there's an overarching name for the series of there. But all of their games have sort of carried on in that vein. But this was the original, and I still think the best of what they've produced, or the ones I've played so far. And as I said, I loved the game, but I'm not sure I feel an intense need to go back to it. If you missed out on it, this may be a really brilliant thing for it to come out and jump on. But yeah, have a look.
And so that's coming out at some point this year. And then the last but not least, PlayStation 5 exclusive for the moment, although I think this will turn up on PC, releasing in 2025. I've got a question for you, Tim. What's weirder than Death Stranding 1?
Death Stranding 2?
Death Stranding 2, it's bloody
Electric
weird.
guitar Boogaloo?
Yeah, so this is just Kojima being weird Kojima. There's so much just weird stuff. It's, so you and Norman Reedus and your magical fetus, you're back once again. Saving America wasn't good enough for you. Now you're doing stuff elsewhere on the planet. That's right. Lots of very weird Kojima things.
This was 120% Kojima, basically.
Yeah, like a weird, like even people in the medical profession don't have normal masks. No, they have some kind of weird hand scarf that goes up round their face and does weird things. So, I don't know. Sometimes I just feel Kojima, someone needs to rein him in and go, mate, it's a bit naff.
Yeah,
sometimes,
be weird
some of this stuff.
if there's a point to it. If there's no
don't
point
just
to
be
your
weird for the
weirdness,
sake of being weird.
Tone it down a little bit, just a little bit.
I mean, I'm sure Death Stranding 2 will go down very well. You quite liked the original, didn't you, Tim?
No, I never played it. I had
it?
absolutely no interest in being a post-apocalyptic postman. Like
a post-apocalyptic postman.
The gameplay did not intrigue me at all. The one thing where this game intrigues me a little bit more, and why is that baby burping out a spaceship? What is there some weird inner space stuff going on?
Coleman liked it.
Coleman liked it, and Coleman can possibly allude to this a bit more, but this trailer gave me so many questions, and I'd like to ask Coleman, like, why are these characters in black and white at the moment? What is going on there? What the hell is happening?
It's Kojima.
What's
Kojima,
with the
mate.
baby
Weird,
burping out the ship? What is going on? Is any of this explained? If none of it's explained, I don't care. If it is explained in this game, I kind of want to play it because I kind of want the explanation of what the hell is going on.
Yeah, I mean, and there's a dude with he instead of a gun, he has a guitar that he plays and it shoots lightning out the end of it because of course he does.
Yeah, of course, definitely.
Yeah. And the hand things, the weird hand glove things, not a fan. Creeps me out.
There's enough here that intrigued me. Also, they seem to allude to the fact that they weren't doing deliveries anymore. Like, that isn't part of the gameplay, possibly, anymore. I don't know if that is
totally
the case.
load of deliveries in there.
But they said something about, well, robots can do deliveries now. We don't need to do deliveries.
Maybe it's like got a factory sim in it as well, and you just need to have lots of robots doing your
Maybe
bidding.
that's why he's on the beach. He's retired.
Oh, and there's a weird, like, Jimmy Carr marionette thing as well, which really creeped me out.
Right. Now,
what was that about?
Being weird for the sake of being weird. Like,
yeah.
What? Where did that come from?
Yeah. Very strange. Anywho.
Weird haunted doll thing.
Perhaps that's something when Coleman is back, or either next week or the week after, when he's got a microphone in front of his face, we can prod him on
I'm not
Death
sure even
Stranding.
then he'll be able to give us answers on that because what?
Yep. So that was it. That was quite a lot in that state of play. There is some more news we're just going to rattle.
What did you think overall of the state of play?
I thought it was okay.
Yeah, I thought it was good. Just falling just short of greatness. It needed a few more big hitting Sony first party things that I really cared about. They also, one other thing that we didn't mention, they also ended on a little bit of a teaser of, and there's a game called, what was it? It was really oddly titled, but there's a game that they're making with Kojima that's also going to be part movie, part game, maybe a movie as well. Some music going on. Insepsis or something,
it's going to be the
weird
culmination of his career, apparently. So it's going to be really bloody
but
odd.
It's him going back to espionage and stuff as well. So
it's a
interesting,
tactical
I guess.
espionage game.
Tactical espionage.
Indeed. So that's it. That's your lot. That is all of State of Play. I think we're probably just going to leave it there in the interest of time. There was some news.
More layoffs because, of course, there was. We can't get through a week in this year without layoffs.
Yep.
Damn you, Sega of America.
Hitting Sega of America and Embracer Group, sadly. But there is also, and this is perhaps something just to give everyone listening a heads up to, because that's probably going to be live by the time next show comes around. That is, there's going to be an open beta for Skull and Bones running from February 8th until February 11th. On everything you could possibly want to play it on. I don't know if this game's going to be terrible or not. I'm intrigued by it because I think it's either going to be really good fun or just really bad.
You put it on your one to watch, Dan. So
it's only
you can play this and let us know.
That is not me saying it's going to be good. It's me. I am watching it with a sense of detached amusement, just to see what.
Go and attach yourself to the beta and see if it's any good, and let us know so the rest of us don't have to suffer through it if it's as bad as it probably might be.
Gladly. So, that's it. That's the news we've got time for. But before we go and the door slams on us, just your usual weekly reminder to go to tpublic.com/stores/BRB and buy stuff with my face on it and other things beside. But the best stuff all has my face on it. That's tpublic.com/stores/BRB. Tim, Tuesday's a Tuesday. Tell us about Tuesday. What's happening this Tuesday on Tuesday?
Indeed a Tuesday. And we're starting off, at least the first few weeks of this month, we were jokingly referring to it as Blood Month because we've got a game called Flesh and Blood, which is the game for this week, which is a trading card game, a bit like Magic, kind of collectible card game where you can sort of set your own decks and stuff as well. We did an event for this last year, and we're doing another one this year. But we've got some starter decks to give away, as well as some rare cards for people that show a particular interest in the game. But it's a fun one. I played a couple of games in it when we did the event last year, and it seems quite good. It's got some interesting systems in it as well. Flesh and Blood. And there are more details on the top left-hand corner of BigRedBarrel.com, or there hopefully will be by the time you hear this podcast. Or you can join the over 2,100 members in our meetup group. Search for Tabletop Tuesday on meetup.com, or just come along to Tabletop Tuesday at the Loading Bar in Stoke, Newington this Tuesday for Flesh and Blood. And then, as is the case every second Tuesday of the month, we'll be doing Blood on the Clock Tower, which has been very popular. So come along and join some big games of that in the following week as well. So that's the second week of February.
Happy days. So if it's a Tuesday, you need to go down to Loading Bar. That's what you need to do. Simple as that. You go, what day is it? Is it Tuesday? Oh my God, it's Tuesday. I need to go to Loading Bar.
Better be at the Loading Bar then.
Indeed. That is pretty much your lot. Just going to remind you that you should, of course, head on over to BigRedBarrel.com, Facebook.com/BigRedBarrel, X or Twitter.com/BigRedBarrel, YouTube.com/BigRedBarrelTV, and Discord.com/invite/Mntuhafwa, because we don't have our own fancy Earl yet.
By the way, Coleman reminded me there was Dark Pictures Anthology that I was spacing on the name of as the series is of horror games by Supermassive Games.
All of those links that I just said at you are in the show notes because Future Coleman's a legend and has put all the notes in there. You can also go over to the podcast producing service of your choice, or proffering service, probably proffering service, of your choice and let us know what you think of the show. We will hoover all those reviews up and, if we like them, we might print them out and put them on a wall and go, let's
Don't print it out. It's a waste of paper.
I might.
Save the world.
We're done. That's it. 578 in the bag.
Nice.
We will be back next week. Hopefully, there might be 2 of us, might be 3 of us. Who knows? That's just the way we roll at the moment. But some kind of show will be here next week. And if you haven't heard Tim drone on enough about VR, there's a new episode of BRB out. And there
we'll be recording another one soon. Also, the VR game that I can't talk about yet, I freaking love, and I don't think anyone's expecting anything from it, and it's brilliant, and I will talk about it more next week if I'm on the show, and I'll definitely talk about it even more on VRB coming up. So, yeah.
Excellent. So if you want to hear Tim talk about it several times in excruciating depth, we've got you covered, whatever that game may be. We will be, yes, according to the notes going up on the video feed. Yes, Tim probably will be doing a one-man show next week. He won't notice the difference.
Don't tempt me.
That's what's going to happen. We're going to get out of here. We're going to wrap this show up. Thank you so much for listening to us. And all that's really left is to remind you that I have been Dan.
I might have been Tim.
And no one has been Coleman.
No. No one can replace Coleman. No one can replace you.
Apart from that soundboard. That does part of the job of replacing you. Yes. So, we'll be back soon. Thank you so much for listening. And until next time, dear listeners, toodle bye.
Your ears are quite welcome for the podcasting goodness that you just heard. Why not roll on over to BigRedBarrel.com for more podcasts, news, reviews, and videos from the biggest, reddest site on the internet, BigRedBarrel.com.
Coleman, we've both played the same game. In fact, I think we both played 2 games.
And each other.
What?
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 Pardon?
Ah?
Senor?
What? Not tonight.
Come on.
I've got a headache.